How about Edmund Genet? He seems like a logical suspect.
Why?
First of all, during his time as a French ambassador for the U.S., he really strained foreign relationships by trying to get the U.S. involved in French wars. He continually defied the wishes of the U.S. government and kept capturing British ships as an attempt to bring the U.S. into their war with Britain. It got to the point where both Jefferson and Hamilton agreed to write him a letter of complaint, and he was facing arrest.
Whoa, so Jefferson and Hamilton agreed on this? And wasn't Hamilton the total buttface to this guy?
Yeah, he was.
What a buttface.
Totally.
Anyhow, wasn't France in a lot of debt too?
Yeah, that was another reason Genet came to the U.S. He needed to gain support, and if that failed, he'd be in a lot of trouble.
Okay, so Genet killed Hamilton because Hamilton was spreading the word that Genet could not be supported, and Genet couldn't afford to be arrested or deported in his current situation.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how it would have gone down?
So Genet waited in Hamilton's home for him with no violent intent, just wanting to talk about the letter of complaint Hamilton wrote him.
As soon as Hamilton walked home, Genet made his case about how offended he was by this letter.
And Hamilton kept insulting Genet and his home country, France, and the argument got more and more heated.
Genet was already facing prison. He knew that if Hamilton walked away from this alive, he'd for sure be sent there.
So Genet picked up a knife laying on the kitchen counter, and it became a crime of passion.
Yeah, that could have happened, but there's a lot of evidence found at the crime scene that isn't accounted for.
Yeah, like the note. Genet had no accomplishment he was celebrating, so he had no reason to write that note, nor does it make sense for him to cover up such a note.
But there was evidence that Genet was in Philadelphia, which explains the ticket.
Well, Genet was intelligent enough to realize leaving the ticket behind was a bad idea.
You are so right. Also, Genet had no discernible reason to include the rights of man and the Bill of Rights in his grudge against Hamilton, which is centered around Hamilton's opposition to him.
James Madison fits the profile. He and Hamilton had a falling out a few years back. Hamilton's plan to bolster the national debt put an end to their agreement on national policy. Madison claimed Hamilton's plan would enable an aristocracy, and he went as far as to accuse it as tyranny.
Whoa. He and Thomas Jefferson formed the Republican Party, which openly opposed Hamilton's ideas, especially the National U.S. Bank.
So clearly, there's a motive due to tension between the two parties. Here's what might have happened.
After Hamilton had been drinking for a while, Madison showed up with clear intent of killing him.
He walked into the office and shoved the papers that represented individual rights at Hamilton. Then he stabbed him through the heart.
This was no crime of passion, but a calculated murder.
But it couldn't have been James Madison, because he was in Virginia serving in the House of Delegates, and they were in session.
Well, then who was it?
James Callender is one of our strongest suspects. He was once a popular reporter in Philadelphia. He was the one who exposed Hamilton's affair with Maria Reynolds and the scandal with her husband. Because Hamilton discredited Callender, claiming that his personal life had nothing to do with his politics, Callender gradually lost his popularity.
Yeah, so what I think happened was that Callender confronted Hamilton while Hamilton was writing about his success, and Callender's killed him because he resented that success.
Yeah, that makes sense, because he was congratulating his friends and himself even, and I can see why that angered Callender. And it makes sense that it was Callender, since after 1798 he went into a downward spiral of alcoholism and poverty.
Why do you think that he stabbed him through the Bill of Rights and the rights of man, though?
I think he just saw the documents and took the opportunity, knowing that they represent individual rights. It was mainly to suggest that it might have been Thomas Jefferson's...
yeah, because he was a gossip reporter, so he knew about the feud between Jefferson and Hamilton.
Exactly.
So he used it to his advantage.
Yeah.
And then he took his coat because the coat symbolized Hamilton's success and wealth, and so he took it and he found the banknote and the note and his ticket, and so he shoved it all in a jug because it represented his wealth, and he disposed it in a trash pit as he left the house. All right, let's book him.